Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to our garden in Spokane, Washington, where the hardiness zone ranges from 5B to 6A. Today's topic is about extending your garden season by planting fall vegetable crops. I know, maybe you've had a tough growing season, you've had a lot of challenges, and you're just ready to throw in the towel for the year. But the good news is that growing vegetable crops in the fall is easier and there's fewer pests. And best of all, you'll get even more produce out of your garden. So why would you want to grow a fall garden? Well, in my case, we have a long winter, so the more produce I can get out of our garden, the better. Insects are certainly less prevalent during the fall months, and the weeds tend not to grow as much. So those are some pretty compelling reasons for me to grow a fall garden. Figuring out when to start your fall garden does involve a little bit of math. Don't you just hate that? Fortunately, it's not that bad. So go grab a calendar and look at the date that is about when you tend to start getting fall frosts. And then count back to now to see approximately how many weeks you have. That will help you narrow down the types of things that you could grow in your fall garden. Last year, I started using a 5-year garden journal, and boy, is that coming in handy right now. I've been recording each day's high and low temperatures and what the weather's doing. While I realize that our weather can fluctuate, it's helping me get a feel for how much time we have to grow extra crops. I started looking through my entries from last fall, and I noticed around October 22nd, we started having lows in the 30s. And even the very next day, it went down to 29 degrees. My goodness. When it comes to choosing the crops you want to grow, it's important to remember that the soil temperature will be lower than it is during the regular growing season. You want to look at the days to maturity information on seed packets or in seed catalogs to really help narrow down what you can grow. I created something new for you on my website, and so I wanted to show you that real quickly. If you go to susansinthegarden.com and hover over the guides menu, you'll notice that one of the items is fall vegetable crops. This is brand new. It includes a table that has the name of the crop, the days they typically need to reach maturity, some variety suggestions for you, and a few notes. And I want to explain one aspect of that in a moment. So we've got arugula, cabbage, corn salad, which is also known as mash, endive, kale, lettuce, mizuna, bunching onions, pak choi, radishes, salad mixes, some different types of spinach, and turnips. So in the notes here, I just wanted to mention that if you see something that says direct sow only, that's referring to root crops. They do not like to have their roots disturbed. So that means you want to plant the seeds directly in a garden bed rather than starting them indoors and transplanting them later, which can disturb their roots. So I hope that this chart will be helpful and at least give you a starting point. Here are some of the things I'm going to grow in our fall garden. Pak choi, boy does that develop quickly. Giant winter spinach, and the leaves are enormous. Red Russian kale, that's very tolerant of the cold. Esme arugula, Batavian full heart endive. Those are super cold hardy. And some different types of salad greens. Now I could plant our fall garden in a couple of raised beds, but as you can see, all of the beds are occupied and there is no room to plant anything else. And all of these crops that are in here still need a few weeks to grow and produce. Now I love planting a fall garden in our little hoop house. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons we originally built it. It has 2 raised beds in there, but at the moment I've got the same problem. One bed has a bunch of Supremo paste tomatoes growing in it, and at least the good news is you can see an awful lot of red tomatoes, so most of them are very close to being harvested. In the other bed, I'm growing cantaloupes. I've got about 7 or 8 of them on the vines, and they have a few weeks to go before they can be harvested. Now what? Now, first of all, I want to reassure you that you don't have to have a hoop house or a greenhouse or anything along those lines in order to grow a fall garden. And I'm going to cover that in just a moment. And in my case, what I can do is start my crops ahead of time indoors from seed and then transplant them out into the garden as soon as those beds are available. If you've got a spot to grow a fall garden, I'd recommend planting the seeds as soon as your hottest temperatures are over and done with. Or you can do like I am by planting the seeds indoors ahead of time so that they're ready to go out when the temperatures are not so hot. If you're going to be growing plants that tend to have insect or critter problems, protect them with either agricultural insect netting or floating row cover and weighing it down around the edge. Here's what each of those looks like. Floating row cover is a lightweight woven fabric that comes in different weights. It has 2 functions. It protects plants against insects, and it also provides some frost protection. I tend to use the lightweight version for just a bit of warmth. The mid-weight is also good, but just know that the heavier you go, the less light transmission there is through it. So that's something really important to keep in mind. Agricultural insect netting is solely used to protect plants that are prone to insect damage, such as cabbage family crops or beet family crops. It's durable and you can easily see how the plants are doing underneath it without having to remove it. Ag netting doesn't provide any frost protection. Here's a photo showing one of my past fall gardens with lots of lettuce growing underneath the floating row cover. And this last photo illustrates how well vegetables grow in our little hoop house without any supplemental heating. I think that's amazing. Well, it has gotten super hot, so I've found a nice little shady spot for this part of the video. I wanted to do a very quick tutorial on seed starting because if you either haven't done it at all, and I have to tell you it's very easy, or if you're feeling unsure of your skills, this will help a great deal because it will apply no matter what you're growing. Now let's talk about supplies. First of all, you want to start out with something that's called either seed starting mix or germination mix. It's like a potting soil, but it's sterile and it is very lightweight, so it makes it very easy for the seeds to come up or germinate. You're also going to want some seeds, duh, some type of plant markers in case you're planting more than one type of crop, just so you know what's in the container. You're going to want some seed starting trays, and they need to have drainage holes in the bottom. Then you're going to want a tray, and that will not have holes in it because that way you can set it on a windowsill or on a table or whatever and it won't get what it's resting on all wet. You're also going to need a clear plastic lid or a clear plastic bag, and what that does after you've planted your seeds is it increases the humidity, and that in turn helps the seeds germinate. So you're probably wondering what this is. One of the things that I believe strongly in is using finely milled sphagnum moss to prevent the fungus that causes damping off syndrome. If you've never heard of that disease, it will wipe out a ton of seedlings in nothing flat. So this company which manufactures it is called Mosser Lee, and for many years they called it No Damp Off. They recently changed the name of the product, even though it's exactly the same, to Succeed Seed Starter Mix. And as I will demonstrate as I'm planting the seeds. Once they're in, I'm going to sprinkle just the lightest layer of this sphagnum moss onto the surface, and that is what's going to prevent damping off syndrome. So let's get started. The first thing I did is I pre-moistened the germination mix or seed starting mix because that works much better at getting the soil more thoroughly moist. And then the spinach seeds just need to be planted about 1/4 inch deep. And so I'm just going to make a little hole here for them. And I'm doing 2 little seed trays of spinach because this giant winter spinach is amazing. And then just drop a seed in each hole. And don't worry, I'll push them down as soon as I'm done here. Whoops. And then I'm going to make sure that they are covered over. And I'm going to add a little bit to a couple of these cells just to make sure they have enough soil over the seed. So once the seeds are in, I want to top water each of the seed trays, and that's just to make sure that the seeds make good contact with the soil and that the soil is thoroughly moist, but you don't want it sopping wet. And then I'm just sprinkling just the tiniest little amount of the finely milled sphagnum moss onto the surface of each cell of the trays to keep that nasty fungal disease away. And then even though I have more things to plant, I just want to demonstrate the whole process. This is when you put either the clear lid or clear plastic bag over the tray. And again, that is to increase the humidity to help the seeds germinate quickly. Once the seeds have germinated, I'll remove either the lid or the bag. And that's when you need to keep an eye on the soil moisture to make sure that your seedlings don't dry out. So that's essentially all of the steps. And several days prior to moving these out to your fall garden, I would recommend slowly acclimating them to the light of the outdoors. I'm planning to put this tray under a grow light indoors because it is just so hot outside. I think it would be really tough on the seedlings, and a lot of times what happens is if they get stressed, they will bolt to seed, so they're not going to produce normally for you. So I've got more things to plant here, but those are the basics of starting plants from seed. Be sure to water the plants regularly. And if you're like us, part of that watering is going to be done with a watering can. And that's because we have to blow out our sprinkler lines in the fall, usually in about the 3rd or 4th week of October. But it's not hard to hand water, and I've noticed over the years that the colder it gets, the less frequently you'll need to water the plants. When frosts are imminent in your region, cover your bed with floating row cover to help protect the plants. Or place some clear plastic sheeting over the bed. Be sure to open the ends of the plastic during bright sunny days so the plants don't get too hot underneath it. Then close everything up before nightfall. Check on your plants frequently, and certainly don't forget to harvest. Okay, those are the basics on growing a fall garden, and I certainly hope that you'll give this a try because it is so cool to get even more things harvested from your garden by the very end of the season. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening.